What would be different if COVID had never happened? A lot less alcohol-related problems. Before COVID, I rarely drank. I might have had a beer with a steak once every few weeks. Once my job transitioned to work from home and the shutdown started, I found myself becoming isolated and depressed. This turned into drinking more and more, to the point I was drunk by noon every day. Now I'm a convicted felon due to a DUI I had when I was pulled over with my kids. Luckily I was able to stop drinking relatively easy, but man does it suck. I've come to realize there was a huge increase in alcohol-related problems during the pandemic. My kids would still want to go to movies and things like that unprompted, no need to be enticed to do it. They'd have been better off in school, since the online shit's done to their education, particularly my ADHD boy who takes after me and hates school, and they'd probably be way more physically fit, since my son in particular lost all progress on soccer and we're still trying to get back on track. Much of this is due to us not realizing the impact of the lockdown, which even affected my wife and I more than we realized, but still far less than our kids. One thing that would be different is that I would still have some sort of belief that people are inherently capable of coming together during a crisis, and working toward a common good. That inherent belief was irrevocably shattered. I now know in general, during modern day crises, most people will become entitled, inconsiderate, angry little shits, who think they know more than doctors, and who can't follow even the most basic of instructions, and who are more than willing to avoid basic healthcare to kill others in order to prove a point. A lot less people would be overweight and depressed. So many people I know fell into some pretty bad habits during COVID. Seems like half the people I know fell into alcoholism or overeating while the other half took advantage and got fit. It seems those that were essential were burned out and those that got a 2-year vacation are much better off than before. I knew people making more money off unemployment than they would have made working, and they milked that shit for nearly 2 years. I had this belief, and I say this as someone who hates him, but Donald Trump in my opinion would still be president. That man fucked up the handling of COVID so hard that it made many people realize how inept of a president he was. Coupled with how he handled the George Floyd protest around the same time he effectively ended his own presidency. Just my opinion, but I think if COVID didn't happen he would have won that second term. For me, I know this sounds selfish, but COVID was a blessing in disguise for me. I never would have been able to spend the last few years with my dog as closely as I did because of all the hours I saved not being in the office or commuting. He could have suffered from his illness alone and I could have came home to my dog collapsed in debt already instead of the few years I got to spend with him by his side at every hour. Honestly, Trump would probably still be president. I'm not a Trump fan, would have voted Jim either way in 2020. But COVID wrecked the economy, and Trump and his team handled it so poorly that I think it really screwed him. At the time, I thought, wow, this is going to make the 2020 election a blowout, but considering how close it still was, I think no COVID would have certainly helped Trump everything. It changed our personal lives, interactions with others, politics, economics, foreign policy, etc. Nothing was left unaltered, even if only slightly. You know how 9/11 shifted everything in the US first, then on a global scale? COVID did the same. I guarantee in 10 years, we'll see research documents and academic reports about how nothing was ever the same after COVID. The collector's market. Some people don't know this, but the reason resale on collectibles like trading cards, video games is so high is because during COVID so many people started collecting stuff and buying things with their stimulus that prices were sky high on everything. Now a few years removed, the prices are down but still much higher than what they were before COVID. I guess a lot of people would still be working in the office instead of moving to remote work. Some smaller business would still be open, a lot of people wouldn't have taken the leap to go self-employed. Some people may have lost friends due to work commitments. Having free time to video call over COVID was nice without dealing with scheduling conflicts. I would be retired in my 40s, instead. I'm saddled with a 30-year home loan due to the market going crazy over the last 5 years. Ultimately, I had to move, and the dream home I was going to buy would have been $200,000, but instead I got a Law's nice one for $650,000. The prices have only been going up since then. Kids. We have a whole next generation of kids who missed out on lots of important socialization and programs. A lot of people who died during COVID would still be alive. Lots of newly disabled people with long COVID might still be healthy. Lots of older folks died or retired during all this too. People were much nicer to strangers pre-COVID. I noticed this particularly on the roads. People drive significantly more aggressively and selfishly. People are also ruder in settings such as grocery stores, etc. I only have anecdotes around this, but most folks I talked to seem to agree. Gen Z. COVID changed the way life worked. I work at a university and the students who came in post-COVID are way different. More nonchalant, and more likely to have parents call, email, interfere. They are much more dependent on others rather than becoming independent adults. Stores would still be more well stocked. We couldn't find frozen pies or Cool Whip for Christmas dinner. There is often far less of any single item than there used to be, and some things we can't find at all anymore. Restaurants would still be better staffed, and cleaner. I'd still have the belief that despite our differences, if humanity were faced with a global threat, aliens, zombies, other apocalypse, we would set aside those differences and work together for the common good. Nope. We're selfish assholes regardless of the situation. Honestly, I'd be waiting for it anyway. We reached a population density where it was inevitable, so if it wasn't COVID, it'd be something else. To answer your question, I'd still be traveling in crowded areas, getting colds every month, and likely die early. My neurological disorder might have held off for another 10 years and my asthma wouldn't be an everyday thing. Also, I wouldn't think about how absolutely disgusting most people are and how many of them clearly didn't pay attention in 5th grade science class. My wife's immigration interview was scheduled right after the pandemic started. We were in a 4-year long-distance relationship at the time. COVID added another 1.5 years of separation. Now we are together and celebrating our 3rd Christmas together. My will for actually going to places more and stay home less, speechless face. At first I complained about I don't want to stay home this much, but I ended up crossing the line and now I rarely go to places without my family. Usually I only go to work. Trader Joe's would still sell quarts of dairy-free vanilla ice cream. Food boxes would still have the same glue and be easier to open. We would all have more money and things would be more affordable and billionaires would still be billionaires. Well, a lot of struggling companies just straight up died during COVID. Chuck E. Cheese, JCPenney, GNC. Hell, companies are going bankrupt today because they couldn't make back the money they lost during COVID, like Yellow Freight not too long ago. Businesses would still be open late and some small businesses would still be around. Grocery prices would be reasonable along with vehicle prices and interest rates. Things would just be far better in general. Thinking of 2019 breaks my heart. My wedding would have had 160 guests and the reception would have been at the same venue. Instead we had 35 guests and the reception was held at my office, then my wedding party went to a local beer garden. Thankfully we had great weather. For me, an essential worker, absolutely nothing. For the people I knew, getting $4,000 a month on unemployment, I cannot say. Thanks for the pizza party, Uncle Sam, and my job I didn't need a raise or bonus. We'd still have my niece. She died a very healthy young lady from a cerebral blood clot shortly after receiving the JJ vaccine. She got the vaccine so she could go on a trip that she never got to go on. 2020 election may have had a different outcome. Even if it was the same outcome at the presidential level, far fewer people would have voted by mail, and that would change the narrative of the big lie. Economy would be significantly better. Restarting an economy from basically non-moving takes years and we're still dealing with the ramifications of everyone not working and jobs shutting down. Young people's social emotional growth wouldn't be as stunted. Inflation would have been as impactful. RFK wouldn't be in the spotlight. Trump unfortunately would still be president. Trump would likely have been re-elected. Oil prices would have remained low so that Putin couldn't afford to invade Ukraine and Iran couldn't afford to fund Hamas' incursion into Israel. People's common sense would probably still be intact and a strong work ethic. Not sure what happened during COVID, but people in the workforce have gotten incredibly lazy and entitled. Probably a lot of less mental health issues. Plenty of people didn't recover from the isolation. And the politicization of the virus, and its policies are still seen to this day. A lot of things actually would be different. People wouldn't lose their siblings due to that. The technologies such as remote work wouldn't be so developed and many other things. My mental health has been fucked up way before COVID. I'm aware that it's fucked and there's nothing I can do to fix it fully. COVID or not, it would have still stayed the same. I'd still be limping. In the lockdown so many people took up walking that I took up cycling, and over a 6-month period my Achilles tendon got enough rest to finally heal. COVID fast-tracked approval for telemedicine and telehealth care. I'm a therapist, and now because of COVID, telehealth therapy is considered just as viable as in person. Probably my alcoholism. Being stuck in the house after working extremely hard to make a huge move, hoping to experience life in a new place really did a number on me. In California, thousands of people wouldn't have realized just how shitty it was commuting to their jobs every day and the magnitude of time spent on the road. Just a thought, A wild one. Imagine that the world was so close to world peace, that they threw COVID at us. Just to destabilize the world again, Trump would have been re-elected. He would not have supported Ukraine in favor of Putin. Russia would likely have a greater chunk if not all of Ukraine. I think people wouldn't be as divided both mentally and politically. Both sides of the vaccine argument think the other is insane. It's disturbing. Everyone wouldn't be trying to use online resources for absolutely everything. TikTok and Instagram trends wouldn't absolutely rule our whole life, the economy, since we wouldn't have had to print $12 trillion and set it on fire. We would still have affordable housing, cars and food. I'd probably be working somewhere else, never getting furloughed. I wouldn't have gotten a new job that pays more, and hated every day of my life. People would not be so entitled, rude, and self-centered. I truly believe the restrictions mentally damage some people. And it concerns me. Very likely Donald Trump would still be president. It was his bungled COVID response more than anything that killed his re-election chances. People would be a lot less impatient. If you've noticed, microaggressions have been insanely more common post-COVID. Especially on the road, there wouldn't be as many genders or cancellations. We would have just kept doing what we were and never given a second thought to anything. The handshake would remain a symbol of connection rather than a memory, and the phrase new normal would be a stranger to our lexicon. You could cough without getting death stares. As they say, we used to cough to cover a fart, but it's the other way around now. People wouldn't be as divided. The politicization of it really pitted folks against each other. Pretty big bummer in my book.